I am you, which is why when I tell you you want to do this, I am literally telling you that you want to do this. So don't you worry, Billy, my boy. Daddy's home.
The latest episode of The Boys, I think, revealed a lot on how certain characters' stories will end. Of course, such a big thing recently this season is them making it almost too obvious that A-Train dies. A big scene that really caught me off guard and I think is one of the best in the whole show is when he saves MM and he catches eyes with this kid, and there's this really nice scene of them both staring at each other, and it's almost like he's being seen as a real hero for the first time. This is what makes me think that, other than dying some sacrificial fate in the end, like I think is the most predictable, there could be another thing in store where he's either the catalyst for there being good soups in the future, or after this long road of redemption he's had, they're showing him to be so nice because in the end it will be the stopping point of Hughie wanting to work with Butcher. I mean, look at all the times that A-Train has helped Hughie. Just in this season alone, how he sees A-Train now, how the viewers do. This season it almost seems like, slowly but surely, each member of the boys are quitting. Frenchie all of a sudden feels guilty and he's turned himself in. MM has a panic attack and comes to the realization that he needs to stop. And how amazing would it be if the thing that stops Hughie from wanting to work with Butcher isn't because of Starlight or Kimiko, it's because he kills A-Train. The guy that once wanted him dead more than anything now stops working with Butcher because of it. And with that V'd up tumour in his head, essentially just increasing that hate he has for the soups, it might not even be Butcher's fault.
You're not a monster, Butcher. You are a motherfucker, but you're a motherfucker with a heart.
I do think if it carries on like this, he'll get a variation of his comic fate. The comics are so different, but this is how I see it going, with him endangering Starlight as well. It feels like they're going to drive a wedge between them. I think it would be a full circle moment if in the future, Hughie sees that Butcher can kill A-Train, but he stops him from doing it, because he sees that he's genuinely good now and saving people, and not all soups other than them two need to die. With Butcher's new power pushing him to become so dangerous, I think he may have to kill him. He first met him to help him take down soups, and in the end, in an effort to take them down, on his thirst for revenge, he may become what he hated. This episode, there was an extremely different narrative for A-Train's almost complete opposite in the show, The Deep. While A-Train saved someone and very clearly showed that he enjoyed being a real hero, he enjoys being horrible. That's what I think was the real intention behind that really quick Deep scene. The contrast between the two, one's redeeming himself, one will probably never. But with that being said, there's also of course the massive increase in screen time and focus in previous seasons that has meant death. You could see this scene as him heading towards some kind of closure. Last episode his brother came and somewhat exposed him for not really saving people, but he's doing it now. The last episode of the season is called Assassination Run. My first thought on that is them assigning him to kill some soups. For me, it's not the screen time, it's just him being all of a sudden really happy and normal.
Traffic, am I right? The eyes? It's always the eyes. Here, security cam footage of your two Starlighters, about a mile from the bodies at time of death.
According to my statistics, it's not a bad thing, but it just makes me laugh how he talks all happy and normal now. It is a complete 180. It was also confirmed that Joe was indeed a hallucination. It got really obvious, but it still managed to be a really good reveal. It's this really cool personification of his good and bad side. Now, in the episode before this, we saw that rabbit that he let out that was also on Temp V, and it had tentacle-like things explode out of it. I think an even bigger version of that is inside Butcher. While it could just be something in his mind that makes him think differently and corrupts him, I do think it's also this physical force. When he killed Ezekiel, you heard it. There was also this really quick whipping sound. So I really hope it's this physical thing we can see, where it's a bit like Venom, and he has these physical tentacle things come out of him. Remember, the boys mocks superheroes. Venom is a supervillain, so they could just be giving Butcher this Venom-like story. Also, I love how Samir was Strand's right-hand man in Fear the Walking Dead. If you had told me a couple years later that Butcher and Negan would be doing this to him, it would have made that season a lot more tolerable. Virginia, as well, also in Fear, is Ashley in The Boys. It's weird how she was insufferable in that show, but in this show, where she does 10 times worse stuff, she's a highlight. She's actually a really funny, good character. I also think Homelander will very clearly end up forcing his way into office. There was a scene in this episode where he presented his plan, and when they all started disagreeing with him, you heard the white noise again. His eyes started to water. It was so good. Back in season 1, Raina warned Butcher that if he keeps going after Homelander, it's not just about him getting done, it would be thousands of people.
I sympathize. I really do. But it's...
Yeah, well, that's a small price to pay, isn't it?
Not for you. for thousands of people if you push him too hard.
You're scared.
I'm terrified, and you should be too.
And even that was underestimating what he would really do. It's been a long time coming, and in the end I think he will get a variation of his comic death from Butcher. Again, even though the comics are so different. I feel like that has to happen, and after Butcher will continue to hunt down the Supes, and that's where he almost becomes the villain himself. That's what I think will happen in the show's own way. In the comics, the context is a bit different, but then again, not really. Weird comic spoiler, Black Noir was an evil Homelander clone, so Butcher killed him, but in the show, it's actually Homelander doing all of that. Homelander and Butcher are essentially the main characters of the show, so I think their fates will be like the comics.
You wanna watch me ever?
Well, what if we share a different destiny?
I think there's a chance it ends a bit Game of Thrones-like, and that's not some low-hanging fruit joke about it being bad. I think a lot of people don't even know why that ending was bad. But why I think The Boys' final season would be similar to that is in that show it was the zombie storyline, it was the White Walkers. But towards the end of the season, when that was dealt with, when you thought that was the big final boss, it wasn't, it was a bit closer to home. The real villains were each other, so I think in The Boys, once Homelander's story ends, it will then turn around on Butcher, who is still fiending for Supes. And that's when I think it would be up to Hughie to end it. There was a scene in this episode as well where Sage tells Newman why she doesn't help as much as she could, but with her letting down Homelander and Firecracker advancing how he feels about that, if one of them are going, I think it will be Sage. With her being the smartest person, I think she would be a problem in the final season, in the way that it would kind of solve all of Homelander's problems, so surely she would have to go unless she joins the other side.
I could cure cancer.
She did have such a human reason as to why she's so horrible, and I feel like there's something there with MM that she can relate to.
You're not as impressive as I heard.
I just think it's weird that for someone that's meant to be the smartest person in the world, she stood there and antagonised the guy with the gun. Was it to purposefully mess up Homelander's presentation? This episode is one of my favourites, I really liked it. I'm glad there wasn't much of Frenchie because he's been a bit of a downside to the season. It's a shame because I love the character, he said some of the funniest stuff in the show. And obviously I don't care who Frenchie likes. I thought this was revealed many times, ages ago, but I just find it so boring and annoying that they spawned this NPC off screen for him to kiss for 10 minutes. There will be something really interesting happening, like a really good scene, and it will just cut to that. So for me right now, he's just a downside to the show. So perhaps he could die. It feels like they had him turn himself in just to put him somewhere. But what do you think? What more do you think we're going to see of this power? Who do you think will die? And how do you think The Boys will end? Let me know what you think down below. And of course, press the like button on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.
I mean, out of all the people that your festering up brain could have conjured up, you picked me.